Hello, guys. Welcome to Careerist. Welcome to lesson number 1. Today, we're going to talk about career and job market overview. We're going to talk about software quality assurance, about QA, about testing, about how you can make 70 to 100K, $35 to $50 per hour after just 1 month program, and in 1 to 4 months of job search, you will be able to get those jobs. Today, we're going to talk about the industry, about the salaries, about what we actually do at work, and of course, we're going to answer all of your questions. So please bear with us, listen carefully. During the lesson, we're going to answer most of the questions. In case you're still going to have questions in the end of the lesson, we would love to answer all of those as well. So guys, welcome. What's QA? What is quality assurance? So QA, it's not questions and answers. It stands for quality assurance. And basically, our purpose and our job is to make sure that everything looks, works, and feels good according to the requirements, according to the design, according to what was expected. So I will give you an example. So let's imagine a web application, like a website, any website, like google.com or careerist.com, or any mobile application like a dating app or a weather app or navigation app, any application that is installed on your phone. Someone designed it, someone created it, usually the developers creating the applications, and we as QA people, as testers, we verify that the requirements were implemented by the developers, and we make sure that everything looks according to the requirements and everything works according to the requirements. Sometimes we also test how it feels, that the user experience is good, because we are we basically are the voice of the customer. We are basically advocating the customers to ensure them the best possible user experience. So we don't fix problems, we only report problems. That's our job. It's very simple, it's very straightforward. Anyone can do it. You don't need any technical background for that. And we're going to talk about it in details very soon. So please meet Careerist, your career partner. We are a leading career training platform pioneered by industry experts to maximize the students' hiring opportunities. When I say industry experts, I actually mean that our instructors, our teachers, are the best of the best. QA managers, QA leads, software QA engineers, senior QA engineers, software development engineers and test that come here to share their experience and knowledge with you guys, working in the best companies like Google, Apple, Facebook, and Intel, to help you get the maximum rate possible in minimum possible time. And of course, to make sure that you will avoid the mistakes that most people are having during the job search. And of course, the mistakes that we also used to have in the beginning of our career. We are supported by already more than 250 career staff, which makes us the largest online QA course in the United States and allows us to help you and support you much more than anyone else ever before. That's why we see amazing results. Only for the past 4 months, more than 200 Careerist graduates got jobs across 37 states. Our graduates are working already in more than 400 companies, and we're going to talk about it very soon in more details. Our graduates are landing high-paying jobs in record time. When I say high-paying job, we actually mean 70 to 100K jobs or $35 to $50 per hour. When we say record time, we mean that it usually takes between 1 to 4 month job search. In most cases, it takes 2 to 3 months, but again, you're always going to have exceptions. Someone will get the job after 2 weeks, someone will get the job after 4 months and 2 weeks. The average is going to be 2 to 3 months, of course. Careerist mission is to provide access to high demand, high paying careers in tech. That's what we do. And let's see if this course for you. So first of all, you need to be authorized to work in the United States. It could be a green card, it could be a US citizenship, it could be any kind of work authorization that allows you to work anywhere, anytime, without limitations and without sponsorship. For example, EAD asylum. Of course, you need to speak English and to write English. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can keep the accent, it's fine. As long as people understand you and you understand others, you will not have any problems. If you don't speak English, probably this course is not for you and you want to focus on your English first. Of course, you want to start a career in tech because that's what we do. We work in IT, we work in tech, and you need to be ready to accept between 65 to 100K job offers. Remember, I told you that the rate's going to be 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour. So exceptions happen there as well. Someone will get 65K, someone will get 110K. But most of you are going to get 70 to 100K, 35 to $50 per hour after this 1 month program. And of course, during you will need to have the job search for between 2 to 4 months. And you need to keep that in mind that you are looking to get a job within 2 to 4 months. What you don't need any technical background, you don't need any computer science degree, you don't need any special equipment. As long as you can watch the lessons and hear the lessons, you're going to be all right. Why you don't need technical background or computer science degree? Well, soon we will show you what we do at work, and you will definitely understand why you definitely don't need any technical background or programming languages in manual testing. Now let's talk about the salaries. According to Glassdoor.com, which is probably the best website in US to see average salaries for different professions, you will notice that software QA engineer, if you search over United States, will show you an average of around $99,000. Now we learned two things out of that number. First of all, that the market is hot and there is a huge demand for QA people, because only 5 6 months ago, maybe 7, I think it was around 6 months ago, the average was around 70K, around 69K. During that time, our graduates didn't really care about the average. They were getting 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, and 100K. So the reason was because they were much better prepared than the average. They were impressing the hiring managers much more than the average. They had a better resume and LinkedIn than the average, and they were prepared to answer interview questions and to be much more confident than the average. That's why they were getting much more. Second thing that we learn from that number is that the average software QA engineer in the United States doesn't know any automation, doesn't know any programming languages. How we know that? Basically, if you ever ask anyone who knows programming languages or who knows automation, you will find out that they will not even talk to anyone for less than 110, 115K. That's why all of those jobs that are going to offer you 70, 80, 90, and 100K, I will not say all, but most of those jobs will get to manual QA like you. And of course, we see that all the time. We have literally graduates getting jobs every single day across the United States in already 37 states. Now, what happens is whenever you search for the job. For example, you search for software QA engineer or a QA analyst on Glassdoor.com, LinkedIn Jobs, or Dice.com. Indeed, you will see a lot of positions across the big cities, more than 2,000, more than 3,000, more than 4,000 positions across the big cities in the United States. And it doesn't mean that all of those positions are going to fit you 100%, but it definitely shows an indicator about the market and about how many opportunities there are. So 80% of the positions in testing in QA going to ask in the job description for more, for example, for more experience or more knowledge, automation, Python, Java, and a lot of different things that in many cases you don't really need, but someone copy pasted the job description for the past 20 years. They're just copying pasting it from one another. And in many cases, when I say many cases, I mean that 65% of those jobs actually do not need those skills. Why? Because if they need it, they will not be able to find a person who will work and do this job for less than 110, 115K, but they're offering 70 or 80 or 90. And eventually, of course, 65% of those jobs get to manual QA like you. I just wanted you to know about it and be aware of that situation. All right, so let's talk about the benefits of QA job. It's very easy to learn. You don't need any programming languages. You don't need any technical background. It's very good compensation. You can make 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour. You have a lot of jobs across the United States, especially now. I never saw so many jobs before. And you can work remotely since March 2020. Most IT jobs, most QA jobs are remote. And it's amazing how people nowadays can work remotely from home, spend less time on traffic, spend more time with their families. And it's definitely awesome. So you don't need any computer science degree, and QA considered one of the happiest jobs in the United States, according to the Forbes magazine. You can Google it, Forbes happiest job, QA, and you will witness that. As well, it's your shortcut for a tech job, and you will have opportunities for career growth. When we talk about career growth opportunities, you have three options. The first one is just to stay and do manual testing, and many people are doing it for many years, and they make 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour. They're happy, and that's the first option, just to keep doing it. If you want to grow, you will have another options. For example, to go into automation, to become more technical, to learn programming languages, for example, Python, to learn algorithms, and to learn automation. Now, this path is not for everyone. Why? Because it's going to be complicated, it's going to be sophisticated, and 80% will have challenges learning it or doing it. So the best advice I can give you is to stay away from automation until you get your first manual QA job, until you get your 70 to 100K, 35 to $50 per hour. After you get it, of course, we will recommend you to explore automation and to give it a try. Now, keep in mind that if you compare manual testing with automation, manual QA, it's like kindergarten, and automation, it's like university. Okay, so keep in mind that you should stay away from it until you get manual QA job. After you get QA job, it's recommended to explore automation and try and give it a chance and focus and try and learn it. It usually takes 4-5 months to learn, and you need to be very dedicated, motivated, and focused when you do that. Now, in case that you learn automation, you will be able to make between 110 to 170K. Okay, you will have more opportunities and better salaries. But it's not for everyone. While manual QA is definitely for anyone. Now, in case that you're not technical and you still want the career growth, you will have opportunities to grow in leadership. For example, to become a QA lead or a QA manager. In this case, you will have more responsibilities, more calls, more interviews, more meetings, and usually more headache. Of course, with more responsibilities, you will be able to make more money, but I don't think that leadership is also for everyone, and you need to have certain skills um, in order to become a lead or a manager. Definitely, you need very good communication skills, right? So that's the options that you have in QA. Now, this job is actually called in different names. So, for example, when I worked at Apple, my title was Software QA Engineer of second degree. When I worked at Intel, it was Test Engineer. When I worked at Uyala, it was Senior Functional Tester. When I worked at QVC, it was QA Tester. When I worked at Cyan, it was Software QA Engineer. But guess what? I was doing exactly the same kind of job everywhere. Different names, different titles for exactly same type of job. Same happens to our graduates. They get jobs with different titles. Some of them are QA analysts, some of them are software QA engineers, some of them are um, functional testers, QE, quality assurance engineer, and they do the same kind of job that we teach here during that course. Okay, so you will see a lot of positions with different names that actually mean exactly same type of job, right? I want you to keep that in mind as well. Of course, after you graduate the program, you will be able to call yourself a software QA engineer or a QA analyst and to apply to all those jobs. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about the course from Careerist. You get an intensive practical training from industry experts. You will get internship and references that will improve your resume because nowadays nobody really wants to hire anyone without experience. That's why we will make sure that after you graduate this program, you will be able to join an internship and practice what you learned. And of course, that your experience will grow with your job search because you're going to be welcome to be part of the internship until you get the job. You don't need more than 2 weeks at the internship to learn how to do the job, what to do, and to be confident. And the internship going to be minimum 2 weeks, minimum 2 hours per day. You can choose the hours and the days. We usually are, trying to do our best to adjust to your hours. And once you done with the 2 weeks internship, you actually welcome to be more than 2 hours. You're welcome to be more than 2 weeks. You can be part of the internship until you get the job. So it means with every month of your job search, your experience will grow. Um, you can be an active part, you can be a passive part of the internship. This is your decision. You're also going to get assistance with applying for jobs. We have a service called Job Application Services, where we basically apply for jobs for you to help you get more phone calls, more interviews, and eventually, of course, more job offers. You will have convenient online sessions like today. It's going to be in Zoom. You'll be able to watch the lesson and, of course, ask your questions in the chat and receive the answers. Sometimes during the lesson, sometimes at the end of the lesson. And those of you that will not be able to attend the lesson live, you will get a video recording of the lesson to your email. Like today's lesson, it's also going to be sent to you to your email. If you will not find it after the lesson, after a few hours after the lesson, you will be able to find it in spam or promotions folders in your emails. As well, you will get one-on-one sessions with mentors that are going to work with you one-on-one after you graduate the program to make sure that you're following the instructions to make sure that you are prepared for the interview, that you have a nice resume, a nice LinkedIn, that you know how to answer the questions, that you sound confident, and you're ready to get the job. Each and every one of you are going to have a mentor that's going to work with you one-on-one to make sure that, of course, once we make sure that you sound good and you prepared for the interview and for the job, the mentor will help you with the resume, with the LinkedIn, and if needed, with the job interview preparation as well. Our instructors, let me introduce you them. We have Patrick Siebenthal, QA engineer at Google, worked at Facebook and Intel. He's been around with more than 6 years of experience. We have Lana Levinson, a senior software developer in test with more than 8 years of experience in QA. We have Ignacio Britos, QA manager, QA engineer with over 14 years of experience working for various Silicon Valley companies. We have Hezron Padlan, QA lead with more than 12 years of experience working at Google, AT&T, Bank of America. We have Olga Chabanova, experienced QA engineer, working with many Silicon Valley companies. By the way, guys, you feel free to go and check out our experience and background on LinkedIn. We also have Nick Haradze, a senior QA engineer with over 6 years of experience working for various Silicon Valley companies. We have Alex Vastovich with more than 7 years of experience as a QA manager. We have Vitaly Yerokhin, QA automation engineer with over 7 years of experience in QA. And we have me, Max Lubachansky. I have more than 8 years of experience in software quality assurance, working at Apple, Intel, and many other Silicon Valley companies. Today, you're going to meet Yuri Sokolov with over 8 years of experience in QA. He's currently a QA lead at Google in Mountain View, California, and we're going to meet him very soon because he's going to teach the second part of the lesson. And after his part, I will join and answer all of your questions. So our graduates work for some of the world's most innovative companies, like pretty much any company that you can imagine. We already have graduates working there. We have graduates working in more than 400 companies in 37 states, companies like Apple, Facebook, Intel, Samsung, Uber, Amazon, Slack, Groupon, AT&T, Chase, Visa, Verizon, Walt Disney, Dell, Snapchat, Nike, and many more. Of course, you'll be able to get jobs there as well, or in other companies that nobody heard before, but they still gonna pay you 70 to 100K, $35 to $50 per hour. That's our map that we are very proud of the 37 states. I think that Minnesota is supposed to be there as well, but we're gonna add it for the next lesson for sure. Just a few months ago, we had around 30 states. Now we have 37 states, and we are very proud of it and everyone involved. So the rule across the United States is that it doesn't matter where you are in the US, you can get 70 to 80K, 35 to 40 per hour, like this. But if you're going to be looking for a job in the big cities, it doesn't matter if you're there or not, because nowadays you can work remotely. It doesn't matter where you appear on the map. You can get a job in other states, in other cities. So if you're going to look for a job in the big cities like New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Seattle, San Jose, San Francisco, LA, you can make up to 100K, up to 50 per hour. Okay. Now, again, you always have exceptions. For example, in Boston, we have graduates making 80 to 90K. In San Diego, 80 to 90K. In Florida, it's usually 70 to 80K, but we have people that got in Florida 90K, 100K, 110K. So exceptions, they do happen. I just tell you the overall rule across the United States, what usually happens, but exceptions, of course, happen as well. And of course, our graduates are from different backgrounds, different age groups. We have graduates working from 19 years old to 60 years old. It's not about the age, it's about following the instructions, being confident, learning, preparation, and following the instructions. That's the most important. I repeated it twice because that's the most important, following the instructions. All right. So, what we actually do at work, guys, let me show you. I know that many of you don't really understand now what we are being paid 70 to 100K and how you can learn it in just 1 month. So, I will show you. Let me just share my screen. Boom. And let me show you what we do at work. So guys, usually what we do is two things. First of all, we test how things work. So whenever I say work, we make sure that the web page loads. If it didn't load, that's a problem. We want to report it, but it loaded. It looks good. It works. Awesome. Next, we test the buttons. So for example, if we have different buttons, we expect that those buttons, those links will take us to the right pages, right? So for example, I have a Shop Now button. When I click the Shop Now button, I expect to get or to be redirected to a shopping page. But when I click it, nothing happens. This is example of a functional issue. Whenever the functionality of the website, the expected functionality is not working. Okay, so this is example. It could be a video player. For example, you go to a website, it has a video player, you play the video, it doesn't play. This is a functional issue that we want to report. So that's definitely the most important type of issues because first of all, we want to make sure that it works. After we make sure it works, we start to test other things like how it feels, how it works, how it looks. So let's talk about how it looks. You see this model on the right? Her face is cut off or truncated. Now, I don't know if it's supposed to be like that, but it definitely looks weird, and we want to double check and compare to the design document to see how it's supposed to look like. Now, let's just assume that we don't have the design document and we don't have access to it for many reasons. In this case, we just report the problem. So we basically gonna write a bug report that the model on the right, her face is cut off or truncated, and this is the problem, okay? Because it feels like we're supposed to see her face. This called cutoff or uh, basically truncated. Now let's talk about another type of issue in UI. UI stands for user interface or GUI, graphic user interface. That's the type of issues that we test how things look. So for example, you see this model on the right. When I hover the mouse over the model, he's gonna move to the left. You see, once he moves, he hides the N letter in the word fashion. Now that's something we call overlapping. Whenever one element hides another element or blocks another element. It could be a button blocking a text blocking a text blocking a button, an image blocking a text. It could be any variation of that. We call it overlapping. It's also an issue that happens a lot. Another type of issue would be whenever something is misaligned. So for example, you see those check boxes on the left, they appear not on the same line. It looks chaotic, it looks weird, it looks strange, it looks not according to the standards. Okay, that's what we call misalignment. Same goes with those fields. You see, they are misaligned to each other, and they definitely supposed to be aligned according to the standards of how things should look like. Okay, this should be aligned to this, and this should be aligned to this. Now, another type of issue that we encounter when we test how things look is inconsistent behavior. For example, when I hover the mouse over here, you see this model, it changes the background to blue. Here as well. But when I go to the next image, here it remains the same. But here it changes. You see the image just changed. It's definitely an inconsistent behavior that we want to report. How we report issues, I will show you very, very soon. Okay, so inconsistent behavior, it's another type of issue that we face during our QA job. Let me actually show you how we report those issues. So let's imagine an issue. Let's imagine that we have a page with different models of the cars from 2019. 2019 Yaris, 2019 86, also known as FRS, and 2019 Corolla hatchback. But someone made a mistake and wrote, instead of 2019, 2020. Okay, this is just an example. So in this case, what we do is, first of all, we create a screenshot, how it looks. On MacBook, we just click Command-Shift-4 and choose the area, select it, and boom, this image is now saved on the desktop. If you have Windows, you just go to Start, Search, Snipping Tool, and you will be able to do exactly the same using the snipping tool. If you don't know how to do it now, don't worry, relax. You will be able to learn it in exactly 5 minutes. If you will not be able to learn it in 5 minutes watching YouTube, we're definitely going to show you during the lessons. It's very simple, very straightforward. Why we create a screenshot? To make life easier for the developers to see the problem right away. Now, how we report those issues. So remember, the issue is the 2020 Corolla hatchback should be 2019. So we go to Jira, the most popular bug tracking system in the world. All of you are going to have access to it during the lessons, during the course. You'll be able to practice and learn it very well. All you need to know right now is this create button. Once we click the create button, okay, let me show you again. This is the create button. You click it and boom, it allows you to write the bug report. First of all, we write the project. Let's just call it demo because we just practice. Issue type is bug report because we write bug reports. That's what we do as QA people. Then we're going to write the title, the summary. It's supposed to be short and informative. It should show everyone what and where is the problem. So let's write homepage. I just already fill it out to save some time for you. Homepage 2020 Corolla hatchback model should be 2019. Okay, very straightforward. Description with steps to reproduce actual and expected behavior. So step 1, go to the website, right? This is the website. This is the link where the problem happens. Then we put the link. Observe 2020 Corolla hatchback. Actual 2020 Corolla. Expected 2019 Corolla. So guys, you don't need a PhD in English literature to be able to write it down. Very straightforward, very simple. Now, priority, how important this problem to the company, because different companies have different priorities, different some companies care about how things look, some companies don't care about how things look, some companies focus how things work, but after the first few weeks at work you will know if it's medium, high, highest, and according to the priority it will be taken care of by the developer. So if it's very high or highest priority, those tickets going to be taken care first. Because I feel that having a wrong number of the model on the website that serves millions of customers, it's a problem. It's a high priority issue that we definitely want to address as soon as possible. Then we have environment, where the issue was reproducible. So if it was on MacBook, or it was Windows machine, or on Android, or on iPhone, iOS, you just write the name of the device, the version, the browser, or the build, depends where you were finding the issue. Okay, and finally we have attachments. We just add the screenshot that we just created. It could be a screenshot, it could be a video recording, and during the lessons we're going to teach you how to add a log file that we're going to discuss during the lessons. But definitely that's something that allows you to add different files to your bug report. And last final one is the assignee, who gonna take care of the problem. You're just gonna choose the person, usually gonna be working with 2 or 3 different developers. Someone will take care of front end, someone will take care of back end, and you will know who's dealing with mobile, who's dealing with web. After a few days at work, you will know who you want to address the issues to. So long story short, project name, issue type, which is bug report, summary, which is the title, which should be short and informative, description with steps to reproduce, actual and expected behavior, priority, how important the problem is to the company, environment where it was reproducible, attachments with screenshot, video recording, or log files, and assignee with the person who's going to take care of the problem, who's going to fix it. Then we click the create button, and boom, congrats guys, we just created our first bug report. That's how it looks. The title, the description, the environment, assignee, reporter. You have the attachment of the image that we just took, and you can click it and see right away where is the problem. We also can comment it. Okay, that's how it looks. Now, guys, I was wondering, was that complicated? Was that something that you feel that is gonna be complicated for you? Okay, please let me know in the chat. Meanwhile, I will just show you few things. So first of all, according to Glassdoor, as I mentioned before, the average salary is around $99,000. And if we go to DICE, we're going to see a lot of jobs for software QA engineer, for example, in Chicago or in New York or in any other big city. You will see a lot of jobs. Now, if you're going to change the search, instead of software QA engineer, you're going to be looking for QA analyst. You're actually going to see much more positions. Okay, so let me just refresh the page. Boom. So this is software QA engineer. But if we write QA analyst, we're going to see even more positions. You see more than 5,000 positions. Okay, and you can go to, I don't know, any big city, Atlanta, Georgia, or Seattle, or you see more than 5,000 positions, or Seattle, or any big city that you want, you will see a lot of jobs there. It doesn't need to be only San Francisco or only New York. No, it's across the country. You definitely can double check it after the lesson, right? Also, I want everyone to be aware that QA considered one of the happiest jobs in the US, according to Forbes. And it's very good for you to be aware about this article. 9 reasons manual testing will always be in demand. Highly recommended to read more about it and see what I was talking about, that manual QA is alive and kicking. Right. So guys, let me just move forward to our presentation. Cool. All right. So now we know what we do at work. I'm glad that it was easy for you guys. And of course, I will answer your questions at the end of the lesson. Promise you that. Most of the questions are going to be answered during the lesson, but in case you're going to have additional questions, I would love to answer those. Now, guys, welcome to our world. That's what we do at work. Most of us, most of our graduates are doing pretty much that. Now, you don't need 6 weeks or 6 years or 6 months to learn how to do manual testing. It's very simple and very straightforward. What you need is to get the job, to get the 70 to 100K. So the problem is, I repeat, not doing the job. This is the simple part. To do the job, everyone can do it. It's very simple, very straightforward. The problem is not doing the job. The problem is getting the job. It's not wasting your time. It's not wasting your effort. It's getting 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour, and not getting 20 per hour or 25 per hour and wasting 6 to 12 months or 2 years or 5 years to get it. We are here to save your time, your effort, your energy. We're going to focus you on what you need. We're going to focus you how to get it as soon as possible with maximum possible rate. Now, what you get is 4-week online program. It's going to be Sunday to Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you cannot watch the lessons live, you can always watch the video recording that's going to be sent to you after the lesson, and you can watch it anytime that works best for you. Also, we're going to have 2-week minimum internship. It's also going to be remote, where you're going to practice what you learned in a company, creating test cases, writing test cases, executing test cases, writing bug reports, working in a team, attending stand-up meetings, working on web testing, mobile testing, using different tools, and everything you need to be confident to do the job and to pass the interview, of course. It's going to be minimum 2 weeks, but you are welcome to be part of the internship until you get the job. So your experience will grow every month during your job search. You're also going to have one-on-one mentorship from the mentor that's going to work with you and make sure that you follow the instructions and that you are prepared well and ready to get the job. You also get job location services that we mentioned before, where we are going to apply for jobs for you to get you more calls, more interviews, and eventually more job offers, especially if you have a lot of kids, a lot of jobs, you're very busy. That's definitely going to help you a lot. We usually recommend to apply yourself, and we're going to teach you how and where, and also to use the job application services to get even more calls, even more interviews. Now, guys, I just shared with you the button below, Get Contract and Invoice. Just click it, click the Get button, fill out the form with your first name, your last name, your email, and your phone number, so we can get back to you and help you choose the option that works best for you. You can also choose the option in that link. Now, I see that most of you already saw that and clicked that. Thank you. Now, don't forget, sign your income share agreement or choose the upfront until noon tomorrow Pacific time. And if you're going to have any questions about it, please feel free to email advisors@careerist.com. I'm going to share the email in the chat very soon, as well with the link in case that you don't see the button, but I'm pretty sure that you do see it. And also, I'm going to share with you a survey, because we always try to become better and better and to improve, and your feedback is very important to us. So please find time in the end of the lesson to fill out the survey. It will take you less than 1 minute, right? Awesome. Thank you, guys. Now we're going to have the second part of the lesson, and I will join you at the end of the lesson to answer all of your questions regarding the course, all of the questions regarding the lesson, regarding the material. You can ask Yuri. Remember Yuri from Google? That's the guy. He's going to answer your questions, and I will take care of the questions regarding the course at the end of the lesson. Yuri, the class is all yours.
All right, guys. So welcome everyone. Hope you can see me and hear me well. So let's start with the fun stuff. So today we'll start with our lesson number 1. We'll talk about quality assurance. So we'll talk about what is the quality assurance, what we do when we test stuff, like how do we test, and we'll talk about how do we apply our knowledge towards the testing with the as a software quality assurance engineers. So let's start. All right, guys. So let's start with the basics. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat room, okay, in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them as we go. So we'll talk about quality assurance, so software quality assurance. So let's take a step back away from software and let's take a look at the quality assurance separately. So let's envision a production facility, a factory that develops shoes, for example. So the way someone develops shoes, it's pretty simple, right? Before someone develops shoes, there needs to be a blueprint, right? So there's like an engineers, designers, they'll come in together and they'll create a blueprint, or we can call it a design of a shoe. And then they will kind of like create a sketch or a mock for it, right? Then what happens with the mock? It's being transferred into the engineering facility to the production facility, where engineers or the manufacturers, they'll actually manufacture that piece of a clothes, right? The piece of the footwear. So then we'll have a shoe, right? So what happens next? Before we can mass produce it or take it to the public, we need to test it, right? So someone needs to put in the shoes, run here and there, test them, jump, make sure that the shoes are durable, make sure that the shoes will handle the rain and the mud and everything else. And after the testing period, those people will say, okay, we tested them, we think that they're durable, we think they're pretty much available to be mass produced because they will satisfy our customers' criteria for this product. And after that, this product goes into the mass production. And that's what quality assurance is. So quality assurance is an umbrella term that will basically say that throughout the whole process of production or development or manufacturing, someone will always keep looking at the quality and will do the quality control throughout all the phases of manufacturing. So going back into the software, right? So going back to the software, let's say the company wants to design a new web page, or the company wants to design a new screen or a button, new functionality, anything else that the software can add to enhance user experience. They follow the same principle as a shoe company. They follow the same principle as the furniture development plant. Same thing. Someone has to design the software. So designers or product managers or business analysts, they come in with the set of requirements. Let's say they need to design this web page or new page to be able to upload stuff or to let users do some whatever the functionality is, right? Then after the requirements are designed, they need to be developed in the form of a prototype. So guys, who develops prototypes? Software developers, coders, right? So coders will create a working piece of a software. And then someone like us, QA analysts, or we can say QA testers or software QA engineers, whatever you call us, we come in and we tackle the testing phase of any development process, right? So if there's a new page, a web page, let's say the web page has like a few buttons, we have to test it. We have to make sure that everything works as expected. We don't go into the code. We don't really work with the code at all. We work with interfaces, work with buttons, and we test that whatever the product that developers developed works the way we expect it to work. But again, software quality assurance, it's a big umbrella term and is the process of monitoring the software engineering procedures and methods to ensure quality, as simple as that. When software QA engineers test the product, right? When we test the product, we find issues because sometimes we see that something doesn't work. We click on the button and it doesn't work, or we, I don't know, try to do some functionality, try to take a picture, try to upload a picture, or try to leave a comment, and it doesn't work. That means that there is a problem, that there's a problem in the software, and we call those problems bugs. A bug, it's a slang term that's being used across all the IT companies, and it means the software issue, software error, an issue, a problem, whatever you like to call it. It's something that we expect to work, but it doesn't, right? So it's something that it doesn't work or doesn't look the way we expect it to work or look, right? So when QA engineers go through their testing processes, we observe and sometimes we find those issues where something doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. We are supposed to report them. We reporting them to developers, and developers then have to fix them. Our job is then to re-verify to make sure that all the problems were fixed, and we can basically sign off saying like, okay, we think that this software works exactly like it's supposed to work. It can go to our users. Okay? Now, here's the important part. That's the important part, because there's a huge misconception about what QA engineers do, what we are required to do, and what are we expected to do. So the job of quality assurance engineer is not to catch all the bugs. So we are required not to find all the bugs, right? Because at any given point of time, any software that you use, even if you download it from the App Store or Google Store, it's like a Facebook or whatever, the website, they all have issues. So all the products, all the digital products, they all have issues. Bugs, we can call them bugs, right? So the job of software QA engineer is not to find all the bugs. We cannot catch them all. It's not a Pokemon game, right? The point of quality assurance engineer is to identify, analyze, and find all the critical issues, all the major problems, right? So all the things that can severely affect our customers, our users. So all our procedures and all our tactics and methods are pointed towards that direction. We only care for the major problems. We can live if, let's say, the color of the button is a bit off, right? It's not going to affect our users that much. We can live with the font size being a bit smaller or a bit larger, right? Unless it severely affects our users or our clients, our customers. But if something major happens, which will affect our users to make them not use our application, we need to catch it. That's important. So what software quality assurance engineers do? We overview and participate in the entire software development process, starting with the requirement definition, software design, development, testing, deployment, and maintenance. So let's talk about the testing part, right? So we talked about the quality assurance part. Quality assurance is a major term. It covers a lot of things. It's an umbrella term that covers a lot of different things. Testing part, or in particular, we'll talk about the manual testing in this course, because this course is designed specifically for manual testing. So testing is just a phase, right? Testing, it's just a phase along the whole development process. There's a phase that specifically designated for people like us, QA engineers, physically test the software. So we deal with the correctness, completeness, and quality of the software. So what we do when we test, we investigate, and this investigation gives us important information about the quality of a software. Whatever we test, right, we have to make sure that this piece of software is being tested. And again, guys, the approach that we teach and we learn and we apply towards the software can be used pretty much for everything, right? Sort of like a universal knowledge. But obviously, we're focusing on the software here. So software testing provides an objective and independent view of the product, the software, right? Which allows the business to appreciate and understand the risks of implementing the new or changed software. Keep in mind that whatever the application you use, whatever the software you use, whatever the website you use, behind the interface, there's constant work. So there are like teams of hundreds of engineers or software developers, and every website or every mobile application that you use, they keep changing and changing and changing it, which will potentially introduce more issues. That's why software testing needs to be ongoing. It's like a cornerstone of the quality of any product or any thing that we develop. So let's summarize. What is the difference between quality assurance and testing? QA, again, software quality assurance, it's a big umbrella term. It's a preventative process. It analyzes the whole process of software development, starting with the requirements. Testing is just the one part, is just the one piece of the equation. It involves physically testing or verifying software to detect the differences between actual and expected behavior. We can say the required behavior, right? Let's say I have a documentation that will say that when I click this button, it should do something, right? When I physically click this button and it doesn't do exactly what it says in the requirements, we call it a bug. We call it a problem. We call it an issue. And that's what we are required to do. Do you have any questions? So far, so good, guys. All right, so let's continue. Okay, so let's talk more about the manual testing, because think about testing as a concept, right? There are many different ways how you can test a software, how you can test hardware, how you can test physical goods, production, anything. There are many different ways you can approach it. We, of course, will focus on a software, but software testing also has different ways how we can approach it, and there are different ways how it can be done. The first, we will talk about the manual testing. So manual testing is the process of finding the defects or bugs, right, in an application manually. What does it mean manually? It means that there's a person like myself or yourself. There's a person sitting behind the computer, in front of the device, in front of the whatever the thing you like to test or you will be testing, and you manually perform certain actions, manipulations. You verify certain functions. Essentially, manual QA engineers, they act as an end users. right? Because if we develop an application to the end user, we obviously develop it for a person, for a human being. So the best way, most I would say, a foolproof way to test something is to let a human being test it before, right? Before the mass production. So manual testing does exactly that. There's a tester, manual tester, that acts as an end user, and it verifies that all the features of an application are working correctly. If we see that something doesn't work the way it's supposed to work, we treat it as a problem or as a bug. When we see that there's a problem, we create a bug report. And maybe some of you already seen how we do it, but it's really simple. It takes 2 minutes, right? So when we create a bug report, we send it to developers. It's developers' job to fix them. It's not our job to fix them. We don't care. Our job is to identify the problem and report it. After we reported it, it's not our problem. It's developers' problem. When developers will, fix it, they will basically let us know that they fixed the problem, and our job would be to retest, recheck. If I would click on the button and it didn't work, I would report it to developers, and developers supposedly fixed it. They send the new version of the software back to me, and I would retest, and I click on the button and it works. Yeah, I would say that the issue was fixed, the issue was addressed. That's exactly how the process goes. Very simple, very straightforward. Okay? So our job is to make sure that the software we test is working to a sufficient standard. We can call it a standard. We can say sufficient quality point, so that our users, the majority of our users, are going to be happy. Because if, for example, there's a major issue and the software that we release to our customers has a major flaw. For example, if, let's say, you work for an e-commerce website, so the store, right, the e-commerce store, online shopping store, and for example, your checkout doesn't work. So it's a big store, and there was a bug, and your checkout doesn't work. If it's a big store, the company will lose, I don't know, $100,000 in a day just because they missed that little bug. That's why it's much more efficient to invest in a good QA team and the people who can test it, so that things like that will not happen, essentially saving company millions of dollars. Doesn't make sense. That's why the QA engineers are paid so well. If you imagine someone like Amazon, not having a QA team and then releasing the problem, releasing the bug with their checkout payments, and the whole world would not be able to check out on Amazon for an hour, they will lose $1 billion. They would rather spend $10 million on a QA department and not have this problem. Does it make sense, guys? I think it does. Awesome. So let's continue. So let's talk more about the manual testing. Like when do we need manual testing? I'll talk more about automation later. We'll touch this subject because I know a lot of you want to hear about it, right? To explore this. So manual testing is something that needs to be implemented if there needs to be a human intervention. So the human eye, by far, and human people are in generally the most efficient way to test something, especially if we are presented with some requirements in a short period of time, and we are expected to analyze the requirements and perform certain testing. So far, human beings are much more superior than any given machine or automation or algorithm that exists right now. In the future, maybe in 50 years and 100 years, it's going to change. But so far, it's absolutely, it is what it is, right? The people are the fastest creatures to test things, right? So if the company required to quickly analyze, to have a person that will quickly analyze the requirements and perform testing within, I don't know, a few hours or like a day, human being is the way to go, right? The human judgment is by far superior to any machine judgment that is created at the moment. If the company wants to use automation, and automation, again, automation testing is basically taking a manual labor and automating it, right? Transferring manual tests into the automated runs, which is not really creative. It's not AI. It's not machine learning. It's really, really far from that. It's very repetitive automation of human processes. Okay, I see the question about, is the automation slower than the manual testing? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. And I'll explain it better within the next few slides, few minutes. So automated testing itself is pretty expensive. What it means is that it will take specific set of skills to automate specific tests. So same task that a person would execute within 10 seconds, it would take like a day to automate for an automation, right? And even execution, sometimes it will take much more time. So from my own experience, the same test case that I can do manually within, I don't know, 10 seconds, when we automate and when we run the test in automation, it will take at least 2 minutes to run in automation. Yeah, it's going to be automated. There's not going to be a person behind it, but it's not going to be faster. It's going to be, it's going to take the time for the system to boot. It will take the time for the, the framework to load, and then the test will run. So altogether, it will take more than 2 minutes. For the same task, a person can do it within 10 seconds. So I hope that answers your question. Obviously, it depends. There are various different algorithms and testing methods for automation, manual testing. The point is here that manual testing is still preferred method for testing within the majority of the companies. The companies that develop stuff and they have ongoing releases and they are very fast paced and they have, they compete with other companies and they always develop and they always release. They do not have time for automation. For automation, you need to have time. You need to have someone that will be able to spend like 6 months to automate whatever things you need to automate. But if you're a company that you are trying to develop a new feature or a new product or a new software, every few weeks or so, you won't be able to automate it. It's too fast. So you need the people that are quick to come in, analyze the new change, analyze the requirements, and perform the testing manually. So as you can see, manual testers are involved in every phase of development, right? We analyze the requirements, we plan the testing, we create the cases, we test, we report bugs, and we verify the bug fixes, all manually. Yeah? All right, so for the next few slides, it's going to be pros and cons of manual testing and automated testing. I really don't want to go deep into this. I've been working in QA for, I don't know, more than 8 years now, right? I spent 5 years as a manual QA engineer and been working as an automation QA engineer for 3 years. Yeah? So I can tell you right away, automation QA engineers, they are not really a QA engineers. They have very little understanding of what the testing is, because the job of automation QA engineer is to take the tasks, the task cases, the jobs of manual QA engineers labor, and just automate them, transfer them into the code so it can be run automatically. Remember when we talked about test cases or test scenarios, right? Let's say I need to test basic thing. I need to verify that the, I don't know, Google search works, right? So let's create a basic test case for Google search. Step number 1, go to google.com. Yeah. Step number 2, enter the query, whatever we like to search for. Yeah. Step number 3, click the search icon. It's a test case. And then we look at the output. We verify that, after we click at the search icon, we verify that the Google provided us with the list of the test results. That is a test case. So manually, we can do it. We can go in and we can type in and click and search. It will take us like 10 seconds. Automation QA, it's just an approach. Automation is just a technique. It will test absolutely the same thing. Only the clicking will be done not by the person, but the framework, the software, right? So there's going to be a software that will log into the browser. We'll go to the google.com, we'll type in the query, and they'll click on the button, and then it would verify whatever it needs to verify. So automation testing is not some magical superior approach towards testing. No, it's mirror of what manual QA engineers do, but with the help of an automated software. Does it make sense, guys? I know some of you had questions about what automation is, what manual testing is. So I want to explain exactly what is the difference and what should you expect when you join manual and automation. So if you have any questions about manual and automated testing, feel free to ask. I'll gladly explain. So again, if you don't have any experience in testing and you want to join IT as a QA engineer, first, I will strongly recommend you to master manual QA program. Why? Because it's a foundation of test methodologies and the foundation of test approaches and practices. Automation is really not even a testing. That's a way of automating what manual testing is. Yeah? All right. So I'm sure you spent a lot of time looking at this slide, and I'm not gonna really spend too much time on it. There's obviously pros and cons of each approach. They both have valid reasons to be implemented. Automated testing makes sense, for example, if you have a functionality that that will never change. For example, like registration or login or some other flows that's been there for like a year and you're not expecting them to change. Usually those, they rarely change. And in that case, it makes sense to automate them, because manual key engineers, they're efficient, they're quick, and they're easily trainable. But manual key engineers can also make mistake because they're people, right? Automated testing supposedly should not make any mistake, but it's not really adaptable. Yeah, it's so hard to adapt or change something that was automated. That's why manual testing is still preferred method. Again, you'll get the presentation after the lesson. Feel free to research it. All right, guys, so let's talk about the important part. Important part is there are more than 50 different subtypes of testing, but manual QA engineers focus only on few of them. And you may ask, why do the testing, testing methodologies, why do they have like 50 different subtypes of testing and approach? And I'll tell you why. Software development has been there for, I don't know, probably since 50s, right? We can say since 60s, when the first personal computer was invented, like 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. It's been there for like 50 plus years, right? So when there was a first computer invented and the computer was developed, there was no such thing as a QA engineer back then. There was software, it was just engineers, right? And engineers would develop something, and they would obviously spend a lot of time developing something. And if something would not work, there would be the QA engineers that would basically create their own bug reports and so on. But it's eventually when the whole industry would start picking up, and there were like companies like Dell, IBM, Apple, Microsoft, they all would start emerging from as a market for software companies. There was a need for someone within the company to not just develop a software, but to test the software, because they realized that developing a software is one thing, but testing a software, it's a completely different thing, and it's a full-time job. It's not like developers can develop and test. I mean, they can, but it's a waste of time. They're not trained to test the software. They're just trained to develop a software, build the software. So part of the developers or the part of the engineers, they would emerge from the whole pool, and they were they started to create their own techniques of testing the software, right? Their own approaches. So they were like engineers trying to write books, and they would create their own types of testing. And obviously it was all sort of like it was all made up. There was like one guy in IBM, and he would write a book about testing, and he would make his own name his own types of testing and so on. And there was another guy in Microsoft, and he would write his own book on testing and will make up his own ways of testing, right? So essentially throughout the past 40 or 50 years, we would have dozens of writers and QA engineers, like an old school QA engineers, coming up with their own methods and names for the methods and approaches and types. So us poor people, right? We're like suffering from it, right? Because we have 50 or 60 or so methods and types of testing, which were written by different people within the different companies, and we have to make sense out of all of them. While in reality, it's much more simple, and all their methods kind of overlap and intersect. But since there wasn't a single entity or the single way of writing those, we ended up with like a bunch of different types, bunch of different names bunch of different approaches on how to test. In reality, however, it all it's all boils down to very few, maybe a handful of methods that everyone uses. But on the books, by the books, if you read the books, there are like hundreds of them. So we'll talk about them, right? Are you guys excited? We'll finally start talking about types of software testing. All right. So let's start with the basics, like basics, those that are there that everyone knows. Okay. All right. So black box, white box, and gray box testing. So I'll read the definition and then I'll explain what they mean. Black box testing, the tester examines the functionality without having access to the source code. Majority of manual QA engineers they fall under the category of black box testing. Why? Because we don't care about the code. We test using the interface, we test using the, whatever, the screen, right? We don't know the code, we don't care about the code, it's fine. So that's the black box testing. It's the method which says that QA engineer can perform testing without peeking into the code. Yeah? White box testing is the opposite. White box testing says that in some cases, certain types of engineers, they can perform testing just by using the code without interface. It's a niche and it's been taken by totally different people. So those people have access to the code and they write tests based on the code, not the interface. And the gray box is a combination of both. For example, if you have an access, or let's say you can build your test on the code, but also on the interface as well. All right. Do you have any questions about this slide, guys? And I see the question is it the first lesson? Yes, it's the first lesson, because the second lesson is going to be lesson number 2. We started learning the testing types. All right. So question is, on white box testing, do they typically test without access to the app? No, they test with the code. So whatever they structure their the tests are usually going to be just by accessing the code. They do have access to the app, but through the code, because any application you see in front of you, your mobile application, your website, whatever you see right now, it's essentially lines of code which are compiled for you to see it on the screen or on your mobile device or in your microwave, whatever it is, right? So white box testers are essentially engineers. They're software developers. They have enough knowledge to perform to perform testing through accessing the source code, the actual code. They don't need the interface. Question is, will we be learning all 3 forms? No, we don't. This course is for manual engineering, manual engineers, manual testers, QA engineers. We only use black box testing. We don't have access to the code in most cases, and we don't care about the code. Let's see. The question is, how do we run any app without even using codes? How will it run? How do you run your application on your mobile device? Do you use any code? I don't think so. How do you access any web page on your laptop? Do you use any code? No. You don't need to use any code if you can access it as a user. Yeah? All right, guys, so let's focus on this slide. That's important. So this particular slide is important. It's one of those things that you kind of need to memorize. Why? Because it may come up during the interview. Remember, I told you we have many different subtypes, right, or types. So this is another other few major types, right? Functional and non-functional testing. So I'll try to explain the difference. We will dive deeper into subtypes of those during the lesson number 2. But for now, it's important to understand this concept. So bear with me and let me know if something is not clear. So what is the functional testing? Functional testing is a testing of what the software does based on its specifications. So we are verifying how compliant the software is with the specified functional requirements. Okay, so think about, let me give you a simple example. I'll give you example of non-functional as well. Let's say, as I already mentioned, let's take a very simple example of testing Google search. Sure, everyone used it, yeah, in your life, at least once, hopefully. So we have a test case that says that we need to test Google search for its functional criteria, for example, right? The functional criteria says that we need to verify what the software does. What the Google search does? We go in, we type in the query, we click on the search icon or search button, we receive we get the list of the search results. Is it functional testing or not functional testing? Please let me know in the chat room. It's functional. Yeah. So for the functional testing, we only care what the system does. So when we click on the search icon, we need to verify that we receive or the Google returns the list of the search results. Yeah. It means we're testing what the system does, or what the system does. Now let's move back to the non-functional testing. By the way, all these two are the high-level concepts. They are only high level. We will dive deeper during the lesson number 2. But non-functional testing, it's the testing of an application for its non-functional requirements. It means that instead of testing what the software does, we're testing how well the software does it, or like how well does it function, rather than what it does. I'll give you an example. Very simple. So let's take the same test case with the Google search. The steps would be the same. We will come in, we will go to the google.com, we will type in the query, and we would click for the click on the search icon. But verification point, since we're testing for non-functional requirements, it would be different. For example, we can check how much time does it take for Google to come up with a list of the results. Yeah? How long does it take? Or how many results does the Google come up with? Or how relevant are the results to my search, to my query? Does it make sense, guys? Essentially, when it comes to real work, you will barely touch those, definitions. It's like it's something that you need to learn and understand from the beginning. But at the actual work, or like an actual real work, you will forget all of this. It's still important because it may come up during the interview. Could you please, the question goes like this, could you please provide more example of non-functional testing? Of course. For example, what happens if I click million times on the search icon, on the Google search icon at the same time? It's called stress testing or load testing. Yeah. Or for example, UI testing, or the colors of the fonts and the design of the page, they also kind of fall under the category of non-functional testing, because they don't really affect the functionality. They affect the how does the page look like, rather than what the page does. So the UI perspective is also a form of a non-functional testing. Like, are all the colors are exactly like they're supposed to be? All the buttons are the right size? Are all the icons are aligned? So technically, it also falls on the category of non-functional testing. All right, guys. So I hope you still have mental capacity to conquer this final slide for today from our learning experience. Remember, I told you that there are many different subtypes, more than 50, probably more than 100. But manual QA engineers mostly do a few of them. So those three are the main, top three things that you will be doing as a manual QA engineer. I will explain, I'll read the definition, I'll explain all of them, and let's go over these together. Yeah? All right. So exploratory testing, it's an approach. It's a type of testing. Think about it as more like an approach, yeah? So exploratory testing is an approach to software testing which focuses on discovery, learning, and investigation, and relies on creativity, experience, and intuition of a tester to quickly uncover defects, and is often described as simultaneous test design and execution. To summarize what exploratory testing is, if, for example, I'll have a mobile device and I'll install, whatever the application I want you to test, can be, I don't know, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. I don't care. Even if you never used it, I would hand you the phone, the cell phone, and I'll ask you to test it. What would be your approach? Guys, what do you think? How would you tackle this test? How would you tackle this task? How would you test something that you never seen in your life? Well, I'll summarize it for you. You explore. And what it means is you click on all the buttons and you learn what clicking on each button does. And then after 10 minutes, you identify what are the major functionalities of the software. And it's not complicated. If I'll give you an Instagram application, just imagining you never saw it in your life or you never used it in your life, it will take you like 15 minutes to understand what it does and what is the major functionality. Like, what do you do? And we can break it down. Like if it, let's say we'll take Instagram and we'll break it down to the top 5 functionalities. What is it? Upload a photo, apply a filter, you know, like someone else's photo, leave a comment, and share an image, right? Share a photo with your whatever. That's it. That's all. That's all what the Instagram is. Literally, like 5 things you can do with it that are the major parts of an application. The rest is somewhat superficial. So exploratory testing lets you explore, kind of like play detective. And your job is to connect all the dots and find things that are wrong with it. So let's say you're testing Instagram and you're unable to upload an image or you're unable to leave a comment. It will alarm you. It will trigger you. You will be basically alarmed that something doesn't work, even though you may never see the requirements for Instagram. You don't need to see requirements for Instagram to understand that something is wrong with it. And it will take you 10 minutes. That's why exploratory testing relies on creativity, experience, and intuition. It's very intuitive. You will be doing a lot of that during your work. Do you have any questions about exploratory testing? All right, so let's continue to smoke testing. Smoke testing covers the most important functionality of a software and verifies that the software appears to work correctly. It precedes in-depth testing and it aims to verify that the build is deployed successfully and that all the components are running and ready for the actual test process. Sounds complicated, but let me take you back in history a bit, probably about 70 years back. So imagine a factory in 1940s or 1950s or 1960s. They were developing appliances, right? Appliances or electronics or any other gadgets or devices. They also had their own test QA methodology, right? They had their own testing approach. And their first test case would be to take a unit they would build, let's say it's a refrigerator or an oven or whatever it is, and plug it into the wall the wall outlet. Yeah, if they would see a smoke coming out of it, it means that the test case would be failed. Yeah. So smoke testing means that we do a very quick check and we verify that nothing is majorly wrong with our software. So smoke testing, the name comes that we still use for software comes from back in the days, and it basically says that QA engineer needs to spend a short amount of time with, let's say it's a mobile application, right? QA engineer needs to play. We play with the app, right? We play with the software within the short period of time, trying to trigger all the main functionalities and see if there's something obviously wrong with it. Or we can say smoke coming out of the device, right? The reason for this type of testing is, remember guys, I told you that the software that we work with, the software that is being developed, the application on the website, it's a constantly changing code. Yeah. So at certain point of time, developers will take this code and they will, we call it a compilation. We call it compile. So we say compile the code into a physical application. think about it as a file. And that file can be installed on a mobile device if it's a mobile application, or this file can be installed, can be viewed on your browser, or this file, if it's a desktop application, can be installed on your desktop. Yeah. So QA engineers throughout the day or throughout their the work week, they will be handed by the developers those intermittent files, right, which we will call versions or builds. Builds is more accurate description. There, since those builds are not tested, we want to make sure that they are ready. There's nothing critical and obviously wrong with them before we would continue with testing, let's say. Hence, smoke testing is exactly designed for that procedure. It means that the QA engineer will spend max of like 30 minutes, maybe an hour, trying to play with the major functionalities. So going back to Instagram, if I would smoke test a newly created build, I would like upload an image, like a photo, leave a comment, share a photo, that's it. If I don't see anything critically wrong with it, for example, application doesn't crash, or my phone is not getting caught on fire, or I don't see the apocalypse happening, it means that it's fine. It means that this build passed the smoke testing, because the highest chance of seeing a critical error would be right after the developers will hand you that build. That's why instead of going into in-depth testing first, we would do a quick check, which is called smoke testing. So that's pretty common. Now, final type of testing for today. It's called regression testing. So regression testing ensures that the new changes in the software do not break any existing functionalities. This type of testing verifies that features that used to work still work. A regression bug or regression issue is the defect which did not exist in the earlier version of the product. All right, guys. So regression testing. First of all, regression testing is performed usually towards the end of development cycle, and we will be talking about development cycles in our course. I think it would be lesson number 3. But basically, each software company, they follow their own cycle, but the cycle is the same. We already talked about it. It's designing, developing, testing, and then releasing or deployment. Yeah. But even that cycle, like release cycle, will be broken into the increments. So usually it would be like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So regression testing is done towards the end of this cycle. So if your company has a 4-week release cycle, it means that every 4 weeks they release a new version to their customers. Then regression testing is performed before the release. But what is the point of regression testing? Very, very, very quick example and very obvious one. Let's take, again, Instagram. Today I'll be talking about Instagram a lot. I don't know why. I barely use the thing. Anyway, let's say you've been working as an Instagram QA engineer, and then 3 months ago, you've been testing a functionality of, liking images or liking photos. So you knew 3 months ago, you had the test case, you had it documented that 3 months ago, when you like the photo, it will be liked, it will pop up, it's going to be a heart icon there. Yeah. So you knew that was there, you knew that it worked. And usually you would follow this release procedure where you would retest the same things every time you change, you update the version, you release a new version, new product. And then 3 months later, for some reason, you test the same functionality. So you click on the heart button, the like button, and it doesn't work. For some reason, it doesn't work. It means that our code or our application regressed. It did not progress, it regressed. So regression issue means that for whatever reason, something that used to work, which we know, does not work right now. Does it make sense, guys? Regression testing. Do you have any questions? Awesome. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So congratulations. We tackled the segment number 1 of testing types in manual QA. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. We will continue with more testing types during the lesson number 2. Thank you very much.
All right, Yuri, thank you very much. I will take it from here. All right, guys, thank you. I'm glad that you loved the lesson. And also, I gotta answer your questions now. I just want to remind you what I already said once, that the problem is not doing the job, the problem is getting the job. And whatever you learn during the course, the theory, the terminology, like today, for example, you have an introduction. So we discuss white box, gray box, but actually you're going to be doing black box testing. Now, because we want to make you a good professional, we want you to impress the hiring manager, we want you to know the industry where you work, we teach you a lot of things that you will never need at work. For example, types of testing. At work, you just execute what you're told, but you have dozens and dozens of different types of testing that is good for your understanding. It's good for you to be a better professional, to know how they code, what they mean. But at work, eventually, you will be just following instructions. Another example is we're going to teach you API basics and SQL. 95% of you will never need it at work, but it might appear during interviews. In 3 out of 10 interviews, they might ask you some basic questions about it, and that's why we prepare you for it. But at work, 95% of you will never need it. Another example is we teach you how to write test cases. 60% of you will probably never going to write test cases at work because you're going to be just executing test cases that someone wrote long time before you joined the company. 40% of you will be writing test cases. So not everything you learn you will need, but everything you learn going to help you to impress the hiring manager, to pass the interview, to get this job as soon as possible. Now, we are very transparent. That's why we are telling you how it is in the real world. And in many different other professions as well, you learn one thing and eventually at work you do something else. Very similar situation is in QA, but we got to teach you, of course, how to do the job, how to pass the interview, how to get the job. So you should not worry about the job. You should just focus on following the instructions to see the results. All right, guys. So as promised, I will answer your questions. If you're going to have any personal questions, or maybe you will remember a question tomorrow or whatever, you can always email advisors@careerist.com. Please write down this email. We would love to answer your questions. Also, I see that most of you already clicked the button below the Get Contract and Invoice and click the Get button. Thank you very much. Those few that still didn't, you still have a chance to do it. All right. Let me answer your questions, guys. Just bear with me. Let me answer, and one by one. Do we need to possess Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, etc., and other platforms running devices for employment, or Windows laptop is enough? So, guys, very simple. When you're going to get the job, they're going to send you the devices that you will need. So, if they need you to test a MacBook Pro, they will send you MacBook Pro to your address, or a Windows machine, or Android, or iOS, or they're going to give you an access to an account where you can basically test virtual devices or devices that located someone else, and you can just have access to those devices. Okay, so no need to buy any equipment. If you're gonna get a job and the company gonna tell you, hey, you need to pay for equipment, it's a scam. So just don't talk to them. All right, awesome, cool. I hope I answered your question, James. Let's see what else. Will you help to filter our job search to better match what we learn? Uh, of course, we're going to teach you how to look for a job, where to look for the job, and the job description, in many cases, probably in 65% of the cases, doesn't really mean much. So in many cases, it's just a copy paste. So even if the company going to ask for more, it doesn't mean that they actually need it, and you will witness that very soon. Okay, so don't worry about this part about filtering the job search. We will teach you what to apply and how. Um, do you help us how to talk with vendors and clients? Well, we definitely teach you how to talk with hiring managers and with your team, and that's all you need. Okay, you don't need to talk with clients or vendors. If you mean recruiters, definitely we're going to teach you how to talk to them. How much experience do you want us to put in the resume? So guys, you are different. Some people have prior experience, some people don't have prior experience. Most people don't have any prior experience. Once you graduate the program and join the internship, you will write down the experience that you have. For example, if you join the internship a month ago, okay, you will put that you are doing this position a month ago, since a month ago, and it's actively a job that you're doing until you get the job. So for example, if your job search is going to be 2, 3, 4 months, it's going to show 4, 5, or 6 months of experience in this case. Right? All right, cool. We have people all the time getting 85K, 90K, 95K as junior QA with less than 3 months of experience. Okay, so you will see that very soon. And also, I can guarantee you that once you graduate the program, you will have access to our community, to our Careerist graduates, where you're gonna see our graduate meetings, and you're going to see the testimonials of dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of graduates that get the job all the time. Pretty much every Saturday, we have new success stories that come to share their experience with their fellow graduates. And I promise you, I guarantee you, once you're going to graduate, we're going to give you access to all those videos, and you will witness that. We have more than 200 people that got jobs just for the past 4 months. All right, so you'll have plenty of testimonials in our Slack channel, in our community. Whenever you're going to graduate, you will have access to all of it. Let's see. Who will the internship be with? We have different companies that working with us and providing us an internship to test their software. Just an example of a company that we used to have internship with until recently, just for for you to see what type of companies. For example, Variety.com. I just shared the link so you can see what kind of company was that. Are most jobs remote? If so, then a remote job from a large city-based job should pay more. Correct. Yes, you're right, Joseph. So most jobs are remote, and those in the big cities are getting more. We just had this Saturday a graduate. I think she was around 60 years old. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she was 55. You know what? I'm not sure. That got a $97,000 job in Chicago. And the job was in Emerald, California. So she got a remote job working from Chicago, making around 100K with all the benefits and compensation. Right. Um Is there a portal we will have access to these videos? Yes, of course, you will have a learning management system which will allow you to monitor the lessons and everything you need. Um, so regarding the completion rate of this certification, guys, 95% of those that are going to follow instructions, they will get the job. Now, the 5% that will not usually have English problems, or they have visa problems, or they have some soft skill problems that we cannot really help. We can try help, but we are not magicians. We cannot do things that we cannot. But definitely those that are going to follow the instructions, 95% of you will get the jobs. The one that will not follow instructions, they will waste their time, they will waste their effort. So please help us to help you and just follow the instructions. You will see that that's going to be the best investment you can make. How long will be the automation? Well, I answered before, it's going to be around 4 months. But you should not think about automation until you get a manual QA job. Is there a preferred operating I'm sorry, is there a preferred operating system to use when testing? No, not really. You will just test whatever you're told by your manager. Do you provide a certificate? Yes, of course, we provide a certificate of completion, but guess what? You will never need any certificates in QA in the United States. You might need it in Africa, in Belarus, in UK, maybe in Australia. But in the United States, you don't need any certificates. You will always have someone who will try to sell you certificates, but you don't need any of those. I can guarantee you that. All right. Was looking at jobs for entry level, but asking for at least 2 years of experience. So, how can someone with no experience get the job? Well, very easy. And remember, I told you the job description doesn't mean much. So, many times, the job description shows and tells that, hey, we need 5 years experience, or 10 years of experience, or 2 years of experience, or 3 years of experience. Eventually, they hire our graduates with few months of experience. So it's not about the experience, it's more about you being confident, being prepared well, impressing the hiring manager, having a nice resume, a nice LinkedIn, and following the instructions. You will get those jobs. I promise you, if you just follow the instructions. For 3-4 months, you will see job offers. Let's see. Is the internship only 2 weeks, or can we do the internship until we get the job? As I mentioned at least 3 times today, you can be part of the internship until you get the job. Do you really need to be there actively more than 2 weeks? I don't think so. I think it's going to be a waste of your time, because after 2 weeks, you will learn everything you need. But to be a part of it and to come from time to time and to basically get more experience in your resume and LinkedIn, because your experience will grow with each month of your job search, it's definitely very recommended. Cool. 4 weeks long, 2 hours per day. How much time outside of class time is recommended for homework quizzes per day? Good question, Kami. Well, I don't think that you're going to need more than 20 minutes for the quizzes or the homework. They're going to be very straightforward. They're more for you to just make sure that you watch the lesson and that you are on the same page with everyone. Okay? I'm in some state, Connecticut, New Connecticut. What would be the actual rate of pay in my location? As I mentioned before, when I showed you the success map, remember, I showed you that anywhere in the United States, you can make $70,000 to $80,000. Okay, this is the map. Everywhere you can make $70,000 to $80,000, $35 to $40 per hour. In case that you're gonna apply for in the big cities, you can make up to 50 per hour, up to 100K. In cities like New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Seattle, San Jose, San Francisco, LA, you can make up to 50 per hour, up to 100K. Okay, guys? Awesome. Cool. Now, guys, if you're going to have any more questions, you are welcome to email advisors@careerist.com, and we would love to answer those questions. In Chicago, I already told you the success story in Chicago, and you can make we have graduates in Chicago making 100K, making even 110K. By the way, both of them they don't have a higher education. Okay, they just have a college, not a college, yeah, a high school or something. Okay, I think one of them didn't graduate high school. Cool. Will we have access to the presentation? Of course, you will. When automation tester can do the job for both manual and automation, then why would they hire only manual tester? Well, if you're going to meet an automation person, you will see that they don't really want to do any manual testing. That's why you definitely need a manual QA, because automation people, they don't really want to do any manual testing. And of course, you can read about the reasons why manual testing is always going to be in demand. I just shared the link with you from Forbes. You can Google it, keep calm, and continue testing. 9 reasons manual testing will always be in demand. They will explain in more details the reason why you need manual testing. Uh, Each company needs QA only for a period of time while they test a new soft. No, they need it all the time. In most companies, they always keep people to verify and double check the requirements and the implementation of the requirements, how things look, how things work, because small things, small issues could cause big problems. Remember about this basically a website with a marketplace for cryptocurrency. Someone just didn't notice a bug, and then they just sold I don't know $200 million of crypto, which they sold for a very low price, just because someone did not check the software for functionality. They didn't check this kind of scenario, this kind of issue. So that's why definitely companies keep QA people to make sure that everything looks, works, and feels good. All right, cool. Good night. Thank you, guys. Is there requirements to get to the internship? Well, you definitely need to follow the instructions. You need to watch the lessons. You need to be nice. You need to be friendly, and you need to follow the instructions. That's all. Are manual or automated QA engineers involved in a lot of meetings on day to day? It depends on the company. Some companies have meetings every day. Some companies have meetings every week. Some companies have meetings every quarter. Some companies don't have any meetings. Really, in QA, it happens. I work in one company. In 6 months, they had one meeting. Okay. In other companies, it was every day. In other companies, it was once a week. So it really depends. All right, guys. Thank you very much for being with us. And email advisors@careerist.com if you're going to have any more questions. Thank you and see you soon. Bye bye.